going on, guys? Danny from Slow Restoration. We're not in our home shop today. We are in another one, but this is Project Trans Am. This is what the 6.6 liter engine we've been working on is going in. We have quite a bit of stuff to do to this. It's going to transform this car drastically. So it's a pretty clean body. We'll take a quick walk around here. As you can see, there's no engine or trans in it at this time. We've already made room for that 6.6, but kind of give you an overview of the car together, or a look at the car together, because it's getting ready to come apart drastically. So we already have the rear differential, spring, the whole assembly unbolted, getting ready to come out. As you can see, it's pulled down pretty far on the lift. To get this out, there's spring pockets up front here, 3 bolts per side. These came out clean. I think they've already been out. You can see it looks like it's got a new spring on it. Most of the time on these older cars though, they have clips that will break, so you end up having to cut those bolts. But these came out clean. On the back here, it's the shackle. You probably can't see that yet, but it's pretty much 2 cross bolts, one at the bottom, one at the top, with bushings, nuts on the outsides of them. Take them off. And the only other thing, this didn't have any brake lines hooked up at all, so you would unhook your brake lines and then your emergency brake cables, which we also already got pulled out. So front is hanging, as you can see. I'm gonna unclip the back shackle. The bolts are already undone. Get them out and we'll lift the body up and leave the axle sitting on the ground. We'll roll it out of the way. I already made some pretty good progress up front here, removing the subframe. So there's 4 main subframe bolts, one on either side just about right here, and one on either side kind of under your feet or right at the front of the seat. And then there's 2 more additional bolts up front on the radiator support. We pretty much have everything unhooked. The next step after we get that rear rolled out of the way is to go ahead and roll the subframe out. With the subframe, I'm also pulling the front clip. As you can see, we have everything disconnected. We're just going to take and set the subframe aside, and then we'll be left with kind of a bare shell. We got a lot to get done to it, a lot to do to this, so let's get going. As you're removing weight here, take a minute and just double check, make sure you're still good. It is moving around, but that's just because the shell is so light at this point. No engine tran, no rear differential or suspension at all. And we're gonna keep moving. Well, as you can see, we got everything completely removed from the Trans Am. Front subframe, front clip. Front clip is actually right here. Took it off in one piece and just have a jack under it to roll it around. Actually worked out pretty nice. Do a walk under, walk through. Whole back suspension is completely gone. Like I said, the pocket bolts up right here. 1, 2, 3 bolts on either side. Look at this side also. 1, 2, and 3. These clips usually break if they haven't been taken apart and replaced. You'll probably end up breaking them, no big deal. I see a lot of guys getting worried about that, and they'll end up drilling straight up through a floor pan and putting a long nut and bolt through it. No sense in that. These are clips. You can see it moving there. It's actually replaceable. So if it does spin and you can't get the nut or the bolt out, just cut the bolt out, get that pocket out of the way, and then you can pry these clips out and just replace them later. But now we have everything out of our way. The next step is going to be, we're going to be putting some Detroit Speed mini tubs in this car. So we're going to have to do a lot of cutting here. So anyway, stay tuned for this one. We got a lot more to come, a lot more work to do. Make sure I don't bump my head here. And this is going to be a pretty sweet car. Like I said, it is getting the 6.6 liter LT engine. Actually, the transmission for it is right there. And yeah, it's going to be a pretty good build here. Stay tuned. Thanks for stopping by. Have a good day. You put the Detroit Speed mini tubs, one sitting right there, the other one's over there, and you end up cutting this whole inner structure out just like this side. I know no one wants to hear this, but as you can see, the interior of this car is completely stripped down. No seats, no carpet, no headliner, no package tray, everything's removed. You really do need to do that to be safe because there's a lot of sparks grinding, and then once you get to welding, there's welding sparks and hot metal flying everywhere. Very easy to catch something on fire if it's not stripped out. So they give you the closeout plates, left and right mini tub, and over here on the front end of this car, they give you a bunch of templates. You cut these out with a pair of scissors, put them on the car. It gives you rough guidelines of where to cut. These closeout plates that are shipped flat, and you do have to contour them to fit the car and the tub. Not real sure why they don't ship them out pre-bent. Right here is where we're gonna make our cut. You don't need a template for that. Make sure your wires stay out of the way, but pretty much you're just gonna cut right there at that radius, all the way around and into the trunk, coming down with our tape. And then there's another template. Again, this tab goes to the rocker. We're just gonna kind of loosely place this here, cut and get rid of this piece because this wheel well is coming out, so is that piece. It's coming off too. It's really good for just hogging material out that you're not trying to be super particular with. Good old-fashioned Sawzall. You get that cut, you're cut along the floor and connect the two. This whole piece comes out just like that piece there. There's a lot still attached to it. No need to chisel all this off and separate it all because that's all at this point just trash. We can, once we get this cleaned up a little bit, we can actually start fitting that wheel tub and see what more material needs to come out and where it needs to come out. You can see here when you cut through that shock tower, there's multiple layers of metal. Those multiple layers of metal need to be tied back together and capped off. So once we get this ground straight, we can start forming and making these fit. So you kind of tailor how wide to some degree. You know, that wheel tub is only so deep, but if you want another, you know, 1/8 or 1/4 inch, you can maneuver this stuff pretty good. So wheel tubs are going to be in and out quite a bit. All right, so we're close to fitting here. This back's a little bit tight. Don't just start cutting massive amounts off. Definitely go a little bit at a time and keep test fitting. Got this all cleaned up, polished around the edges, kind of smoothed off. Side to side, you're going to have one side that may be super easy, the other side's just going to fight you the whole way, or you might have both sides fight you. It's just, you never really know until you get into it and start doing your metal work, but everything's fixable. Everything roughly fitted up, that's what we're going to look like. Everything's pretty smooth. We're going to pull this wheel well back out and finish our flange welding, but everything's mocked up, at least on this side here. The other side's very close also, so I cleaned everything up and used some weld through primer on there. So let's go ahead and get this wheel tub back in. We'll do a final fitment, make sure we're happy with everything, and start drilling and plug welding it in. That's what it looks like before you clean it up. We'll just go back and knock all the tops off these spot welds, plug welds, whatever you want to call them, and clean that up. And we got a couple more things to do, but that's pretty much how it's going to look. Gets real close to the frame rail right in this area, takes most of your shock tower area out, and just widens that whole section through there.